Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a wonderful end of the year and a holiday season. I'm Marilyn Maya, and I'm so glad you stopped by. This video is a very fluid end of 2024 reading plan or goals. And that's because, as some of you who watch my channel regularly know, it hasn't been a good year for me. I caught COVID twice, once when I was in Europe during 100-degree weather. And then right when I came back, thought I was immune, and the only day I went out, I caught it again. Recently, and that sucked, recently I had a slip and fall and a questionable blood test. But if I had to say what the end of the year, it's all's well that ends well. A Shakespeare, which hopefully I can get to later. Yeah, so it all turned out okay. The blood test was all right, and I didn't break anything on the slip and fall, and all my other tests came out well. But all of this has taken a toll on my mental and physical health. And next year, I want to not put any stress on myself and just have a happy reading life. So I'm going to go through some categories of books and genres that I'm going to concentrate on next year. And also, I'm going to also talk about some books that I'm definitely going to read. Well, definitely, as long as everything else goes right. So the first thing I want to do is make it easy on myself and not put any pressure about how many readathons I'm going to take part in, or even how many buddy reads. And I love my buddy reads, and I'm going to talk about one coming up that is sort of going to go into the next year, so I thought I would put it in this video. Well, this is going to be my 4th year on booktube, and as an older disabled woman, I have chronic pain, and today has been a particularly difficult day, especially when I wake up and it's cloudy outside for Hawaii, and it feels like someone just took a stick and beat me from head to toe. So it takes me a while to really be able to get things done, and that's very frustrating, and that includes reading. So I mainly read at night, though I do some reading during the day when I can. But so I want to read books with more older women and more people with chronic pain, but only if I connect with the author's voice, the story. I'm not just going to read books by older women if I don't like the book, obviously. And that happened to me last year when I put that goal, and then I started reading books by older women that I wasn't connecting to or I really disliked, so I had to DNF them. So I'm always listening or watching for other booktubers to give me suggestions and about books that they liked. And so that's one goal I have. I want to read more books by Puerto Rican authors, especially people of color, and others like myself who have bicultural identity issues, trying to fit into 2 different cultures. And that's become more prevalent now that people are intermarrying more than they did when I was young in the 50s. I was like the only, it was considered like very odd that I was a Puerto Rican Jew. It was me and Geraldo Rivera or somebody, but it wasn't very common. And that being bicultural comes with a lot of baggage, because you're trying to, depending on where you're brought up, you're trying to fit into either one or both of those cultures, and sometimes you don't fit into either. So there's a lot of new, really interesting books about that issue. What else do I want to read? Well, I want to continue exploring Canadian fiction. And I have some wonderful Canadian booktuber friends. Lindy, for one. Lindy's Magpie Reads. I'm sure you all watch her if you watch me. Because we love translated fiction. She reads a lot of, she reads a lot of books that I don't read, but she gives me some good suggestions. And for the first time this year, I've read a lot of Canadian literature that really spoke to me as a person new to Canadian literature. And I'm sure there's other Canadian booktubers like Bookworm Adventure Girl, and I watch her channel too, so I'm able to glean from these Canadian booktubers and open up a new subject for me to really read, because I really didn't read Canadian literature before, and I didn't read much translated fiction before, and now this is one of my favorite things to read. I love translated fiction, especially by women authors, and I've read not as much as I wanted to. This whole year I read less than I've read in the last 4 years, and I even put my Goodreads goal as 50 books, and I think I'm close to 70. And I think the last year I read over 100 books. But it's not about the numbers. I know that I was ill and wasn't able to even be on BookTube for about a month when I was gone. Basically, I am just trying to connect with BookTube and not quit BookTube, because I love it so much, and I hope that the people out there who watch me, will get something out of having an older woman booktuber out there, because it ain't easy when you're over 70. It doesn't get any easier health-wise. And I recently, I think I was telling Lindy this or somebody, that Cher from, if you're old enough, Sonny and Cher, she looks great. She's still singing. She's still going out with young guys. And she goes, "This is ridiculous. I'm 77. When am I going to feel old?" And I said, "Darn it. Well, I'm 73, not 77, but sometimes I do feel old, especially when you're in pain. So it's, you can't compare yourself with somebody with a lot of money, though money isn't everything when it comes to aging and getting, healthy. But, it does have, there's some truth to that. I don't want to make this a video too long, because I want to show you some books also. So what else? I want to read more graphic novels. And this is new to me, because I used to love comic books when I was a kid. But then I felt that I had outgrown anything graphic. And lately, I think it started with a book that I read quite a while ago that was graphic novel. I think it was during Pride Month, and I read a couple of graphic novels, and I said, I really like this. I'm getting into this, as well as reading books from my past, which we call teenage books, or even earlier than that. And I talked about this in another video. Books that have stayed with me since I was like 10, and some of them are out of print, and I'm trying to get a hold of them. So that's another goal. as for, I find that I'm reading on my Kindle lately much more than physical books. Because of the pain in my wrists, it's hard to hold a book, and eyesight, it's sometimes the font might be too long. It's just, bulky sometimes to be reading in bed with a big book. So I've been reading a lot more on my Kindle, though I still do read physical books because I use my library a lot, and sometimes they don't have books on Kindle that I want to read. And I was very lucky to find so many 2024 new releases last time I went to my library, so that was good. I'm definitely going to do March Mystery Madness. I find that mysteries, people call them a palate cleanser, but for me they're an escape. And not all mysteries are like that for me, but definitely they are cozy, and I'm going to read much more cozy books. Not necessarily cozy mysteries, but just cozy in general. And I have a book that to show you that was on my shelf, and I found myself looking at it much more when I was ill, or when I was having anxiety. And this is the Smithsonian Handbook of Dogs, and it just shows you different, and I think I showed this on the last video, but I can't tell you how calm looking at dogs, their faces, their expressions, and they show like their face, just their face. Yeah, this is mainly, how they're supposed to look. They're, maybe it's an AKC book. I'm not even sure. But, yeah, it's published in association with America's preeminent authority, the Smithsonian Institute, concise and jargon-free. So it isn't, they're not trying to tell you, to just buy AKC dogs. But it's very interesting to see how dogs have evolved from wolves into all these different kind of dogs, from small dogs to huge dogs, just to satisfy humans' needs or wants. Now there's all these dogs that are designer dogs, but we won't go into that. And also, I'm very much against puppy mills and things like that. So I'm a dog lover. I'm an animal lover in general. So I think that I'm about to the point that I lost all three of my Havanese dogs in the last 5 years, and my daughter lost her boxer. And I think I'm almost to the point where I'm able to take care and to bring a dog in my family again. So this is the kind of book that makes me just to look at one page, at one dog, and I feel good. And that's like, isn't that what reading is about? Okay, and so for March Mystery Madness, I was very honored to be given a whole set on Kindle of the George Simeon Inspector Mark Gray books. And I'm kind of I read 2 already, but I don't want to read all of them right away, because that's what I wanted to do, because they are very well written, good mysteries, but also they really get you into that Paris, and he goes other places too, like Holland, but it gets you into another frame of mind, time-wise, and also not only time-wise, but place-wise. So it's really an escape. So yeah, I'm saving that. And I plan to read, I don't want to overdose myself with Victober. I find that it gives me stress, but I have a couple of books that are on my mind that I don't have to only read for Victober. But so let me show you some of the books that I plan definitely to read. Hope you heard that. It was a nice bird. I have a buddy read that's starting next week and is going to go into the new year with Freddie from Sluggish Reader. Hi, Freddie. And this is a reread for me. So you can say that it's good for Remember December. And it's Excellent Women by Barbara Pym. Now, this wasn't my favorite of Barbara Pym's novels. In fact, I read one that's one of my favorite books of the year that I'm going to talk about in my next video when I talk about my favorite books of the year. But it's a favorite of a lot of people. And Freddie has never read it. So it's going to be very interesting to me now that I've read a lot of Barbara Pym to see how, when I come back to one of her most famous novels, Excellent Women, how I feel about it. So what it says, in case you don't know Barbara Pym, Excellent Women is the most famous of her novels and the finest example of high comedy to have appeared in England during the past 75 years. I find Barbara Pym hilarious, by the way. And so Mildred Lathbury is a clergyman's daughter and a spinster in the England of the 1950s, one of those excellent women who tend to get involved in other people's lives, such as those of her new neighbor Rockingham and the vicar next door. This is Barbara Pym's world at its funniest. So I cracked up at her last book, An Unsuitable Attachment. So I want to read this again. And here's a nice picture of Barbara Pym. And she's holding a little kitty, I think. So anybody who likes animals, hello. And I had read this, maybe I heard it on Sean's channel, Barbara Pym, Sean the Book Maniac, many moons ago. And that's how I got involved reading Barbara Pym. Okay, what else do I plan to read? Well, I've read most of Agatha Christie's books, either 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or recently. But I was gifted this book by a subscriber, and it's Dame Agatha Abroad, and it's by the Mystery Guild. It's three novels in one, and I read one of the three novels here, Murder on the Orient Express. But I've never read the other two, which is They Came to Baghdad and Murder in Mesopotamia. So I plan to read these either during March Mystery Madness or actually anytime I feel like it. So yeah, and I like that it's Dame Agatha Abroad. I was watching Lucy Worsley. So Lucy Worsley was talking about Death on the Nile. And I realized I wanted to read Death on the Nile, so I had to fast forward where she said she was going to do some spoilers. So that made me, and she was talking also about Dame Agatha Abroad, so I want to read that. Another book that I want to read is The Long View by Elizabeth Jane Howard. And I don't know what booktuber gave me Elizabeth Jane Howard, The Beautiful Visit, but I tried to read it and it seemed like it just wasn't going well. I still have it, I bought it, and this one is the Book Society choice, and it seems like it's an old book, which I like. And I'm not going to tell you what it's about, but I like the first line, and the first line, it says, Part 1, 1950. This then was the situation. I don't know, I think that's a really good sentence because I want to read more. And I'll just read the second sentence. 8 people were to dine that evening in the house at Camden Hill Square. Already I want to read it. So what is it about? It's about the inside story of the marriage of Antonia and Conrad Fleming. So I'm not going to, it says they don't want to talk more about it, so why should I talk more about it? It actually says that. It would not be fair to the reader to give away the ingenuous construction of the story. That sounds old-fashioned, but I like I like to read books around the time I was born, and I also like the British Women's Library, and I find some of them are hit and miss, but I intend to keep on reading, especially during the two wars, that period between the First World War and the Second World War, and also before that, just reading about how women have evolved or not. Well, they have, but not as much as we would, as women, want, I guess. And another cozy book that didn't turn out to be that cozy was a book that was, I couldn't figure it out why I was not getting a cozy feeling. It's a book in 2023, Living Comfortably Now, is creating a stylish and flexible home. And this author is from, and that's what probably, her name is Rebecca Winward, and she wrote Everything in Its Place, and another one called Space Works. But when I looked at the photos of this book, it looked very crowded. Exactly how I don't like my house, because it's small. But and then I said, it doesn't look like an American house. And it's not. It's in England. And then I said, it's not cozy to me. But as I kept on reading it, I said, you know what? Why look at all these houses that there's no way I can get my house to be a huge house and look like that? This is what my house would look like if I wanted to make it a cozy house, which is one of my goals. So although my first glance at this book was not positive, as I began reading it or looking at the photos, I realized that she does have some good ideas, especially about keeping your bedroom minimalist and not having too much stuff so you can sleep well. So I'm going to give this book another chance. Okay, now the last books I'm going to talk about were kind of accident books. I don't know, and I plan to read them. So I was reading Patricia Wentworth's mysteries, and one mystery that came out was the Catherine Wheel. But when I went to order it, and this is when I was buying more books, this came out, Elizabeth Harrower, the Catherine Wheel. And a very funny thing happened when I did put a sample of Patricia Wentworth's The Catherine Wheel. I didn't really want to buy it. So I'm saying, well, maybe Elizabeth Harrower's book is better. And she has a very interesting life. She moved from Sydney to a chilly London bedsit. Oh, well, this is the story. But she also is actually an Australian writer and this is she was born in Sydney in 1928, and but her family soon relocated to Newcastle, where she lived until she was 11. And in 1951, she moved to London, and this is the story of an Australian law student in London. Her only novel not set in Sydney. So what is it about? Clemency Jones has moved from Sydney to a chilly London bedsit to study for the bar by correspondence. When she meets Christian, a charismatic, failed actor, she can see he is trouble. Yet she is drawn to him, drawn into his world of unpayable debts and wild promises. In The Catherine Wheel, her third novel, she turns her unflinching gaze on the grimness of 1950s London and the madness that can infect couples. Doesn't that sound good? I mean, it really does. And then I looked on my shelf and I had a novel. Well, it's a short story collection by Elizabeth Harrower that I have no idea how I got. Toronto Public Library. And this is a short story. Acclaimed for her brilliant novels, Elizabeth Harrower is also the author of a small body of short fiction. A Few Days in the Country brings together stories from anthologies and from her archives. So, these are some of the books that are definite for 2024. But of course, with booktube, you also have all of these booktubers that I watch, and I watch a lot of booktubers who give me suggestions, and I'm not going to be so quick to run after the book. I'm going to have to do some research first, because booktube can be expensive. You know, if you're not getting paid for booktube, some people are. I'm not. But so I have to be really careful with money. I'm retired, living on a fixed income. You get the drill, right? So I'd rather spend any money that I have on traveling, since my son works for an airline, and I plan to go to Canada, you know, crossing my fingers, this spring, and I hope I don't get COVID. So good thoughts for me over there. So thank you so much for watching this video and for subscribing. I really appreciate people that come back to my channel, even when I don't make a lot of videos. And I hope that I can make more than one video a week in the next year. Maybe I should have said that. But if I can't, I can't. But maybe I'll make some shorts, doing some, who knows, maybe not even books. Of course, there's always going to be books. But I have some goals, personal goals. I'm going to start writing again. So that's exciting. You always have to have something to look forward to in your life. So please subscribe to my channel if you just come across it, and press the notification bell and like and comment so I can see who's here. And until the next video, I hope probably next year. So Happy New Year to everyone, and let's hope next year brings the world peace and love in our hearts instead of what we're seeing. So until then, I wish everyone aloha.